if they don't report it, they're as much at fault for these people to continue hitting the next person. I think the analogy was, if a woman doesn't report being raped, then she's guilty for the rapist going to the next person kind of theory. There are some laws that require some companies to report certain things. They have no choice. But I think in most cases you're going to find that if they approach law enforcement and ask for the ground rule before the information is provided, they'll be given an honest assessment as to what can or can't be done and what they can expect. And I don't know if anybody's going to lie about it, especially at the FBI level. And I deal with those people all the time. They're honorable. They understand what it's like to have to continue doing business beyond this one case. They're not going to jeopardize that relationship by doing it. It's a tough problem when you have your corporate espionage or other things that would inhibit somebody from coming forward. And really that's where you have to talk to one another and say, we have a problem, but we can't talk about it. But if we were to tell you this, what could we expect? We're concerned that this is going to happen. Is there any way to mitigate it? And at some point, either the law enforcement officer can work around them and get information, or they can cooperate, or just not follow up on it and hope the next person is willing to report it.
So one of the areas I've been most disappointed with in this collaboration and trust has been something that came out of Presidential Decision Directive 63 back in the 90s. It was called the ISACs, the Information Sharing and Analysis Centers. And the idea is that this would be a vehicle, a forum, where the government could share information about what was happening as threats emerged, and the industry could come in a trusted environment and say, well, this is what's going on in my network, and others could say, yeah, I see that, and it would all be a non-disclosure. And so, well, by and large, that has not worked out well for most of the sectors. And so we asked about a couple of years ago, why? Because we're trying to find a way. It's essential to making it work. Some industry people said, look, we came down to Washington a couple of years ago, this was about 2 years ago, in response to a request by the administration to try to reestablish trust. And recognizing, and so here's a long table. And the govies are sitting at the end of the table, and the industry people are sitting along the side of the table, and their point was, we own this infrastructure. You don't own this infrastructure. This is private sector infrastructure. And not only do we not have confidence that you're competent to protect this infrastructure, but you're sending us totally the wrong message that you're in charge, as opposed to this ought to be a partnership that we would work with together. So I think from a government standpoint, the optics at least, and then the substance needs to change to recognize that there's more of a balance we might have had in the past. And that probably is not quite the same as the law enforcement, where you do have a recognized authority of the law enforcement people, but still this whole idea of public-private partnership, I think, is something that needs more attention.
I was very fortunate because having worked for the IRS, everybody trusted us.
You worked in?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so as I've heard several times over the last couple of days and in past conferences, one of the big issues with this public-private thing is the ability to credential who is authorized to communicate with the federal agencies back and forth. So I was curious, what is the penalty if you lose your federal ID, and what happens to you in that situation?
I can tell you what happens when you lose a passport in Bavaria. You run down to the bakery the first thing the next morning before they open up.
Okay, so
Not speaking from personal experience, of course.
It kind of sucks when you lose credentials. Anybody else have any good questions? Bad question?
Well, we've got a second instance here, but I'm not going to reveal it at this point in time.
I think we'll give you an extra 10 minutes to go get some refreshments. I thank you very much for coming. Any question? Do I have any comment on WikiLeaks? The smart thing and prudent thing would be to say no. I personally approve of sites like WikiLeaks. I think that what's happening right now, and this is not as a federal agent, but we're seeing a dramatic decline in news services that historically have kept government in check by finding out information and publishing it and raising issues to the public. And I think that WikiLeaks have their role because the press just isn't out there enough right now. So anything that can do to help. I don't believe government should do things underhanded. I think that we should be above board. I think most of us that went in government work did it to be honorable and to do the right thing. Sometimes that what is the right can be clouded, but there's always been a problem with what you can announce and what you're doing. And some will see that as you're being secretive. We see it as being effective. You know, for instance, if we're going to go after bad guys who are doing a certain thing, to go out there and give all the details to the press of who we're going to go after, what we're going to do, where we're going to set up at, it kind of becomes counterproductive because the bad guys read that stuff. So there is a need for secrecy. In some investigations where you're using informants, even after the case is over, you still can't release the identity of that informant because it could cost them their life. Now you have competing interests because press wants to know what it is, they can put it out there, grandstand it, but this could cost somebody their life. So I do believe that there is information that should not be released. I think there's legitimate reason to conceal information, not to be subversive, but to protect people. But I see WikiLeaks as not a bad thing, actually. Anything else? Well, thank you all very much for coming. Really appreciate it.